Hello and welcome to another awesome video. Today I'll be painting some green orc skin and I already started it on the chest and on the abs, so I'll be continuing on the arm and shoulder today. The recipe I'm using is a new one for me. And it's one that came about from me having a talk with a friend who's doing his orc kill team. And while talking, we decided that we could come up with a more exciting version of a green skin with not only green tones in it. So we talked a bit back and forth and ended up with a recipe that is based in Bugman's Glow from Citadel. The whole list of colors, we'll be going through them, but it's not super important that you're using exactly those, but just as long as you're using some that are equivalent to the ones I've picked out. I've used a base coat of a 2 thin coats cuirass leather, which is basically a rhinox hide equivalent, and I'm basing the entire model in that color, and it will be mixed in a tiny bit with the next color, which is the Bugman's Glow. That one is the base for the skin and will be visible in most of the recesses, giving a bit of warmth in there and making it look a bit more interesting, at least to me. Then I'm using a game color green that is called heavy gray, but it is a green. It's a desaturated green, and I'm using model color golden olive, which is a much lighter olive color, also a bit desaturated, and I'm using a Reaper color, which is a very bright green, called Dungeon Slime, and my lightest color I'll be using is Vallejo model color Sunny Skin Tone. I'm doing mixes of most of them. For example, the Bugman's Glow will have a bit of the cuirass leather in it, just to darken it down, and that mix will then form the base color. On top of that, I'll be using a mix of Bugman's Glow and the heavy gray as kind of like the first green tone. On top of that, I'm layering a pure heavy gray, and then I have a mix of the heavy gray and the golden olive, and I'm using pure golden olive on top of that. Then I have a mix of golden olive with Dungeon Slime, which is the brightest of the green colors. I have a mix of Sunny Skin Tone with a bit of Dungeon Slime in it, just to tint it a bit greener, and I use also a tiny bit of Sunny Skin Tone to finish everything up with. The brush I'm using for painting is a Raphael brush. It's the 8404, and it's a size 00, and pretty early on I switched to a 3 zeros. There isn't a huge difference on those two. They are almost the same in size. It's just my 3.0 is a bit less worn, which means less wear, and it then has a sharper tip. And the sharper tip makes for me a lot more easy to make a sharp mark. The area is pretty detailed, which means I'll have to go into some creases, and there isn't a lot of space, so I'm not using a big brush. When the video starts, I've already covered the entirety of the model in the Curious leather, and the area I'm working today, shoulder and arm, has already gone through the stage of being almost entirely covered in the mix of Buckman's Glow and Heavy Grey, and it has been covered on top with a pure Heavy Grey. I'm leaving a tiny bit of the previous layer just to show through, and I'm doing it rather quickly and not too blended. I'm making sure I'm dragging the brush in the direction where I want to deposit the most paint pigments, just to have an easier time on blending. But I'm going into the mix of Heavy Grey and Golden Olive almost straight away. When I'm painting with that color, I'm starting to really build the volumes, and that means I'm often turning the model upside down for me to have an easier time dragging the stroke towards where the light is hitting. The details on the shoulder is a bit softer than I'm exaggerating them to be. I'm doing that just to give a bit more feel of musculature. Most of the light on the muscles is coming from the pure Golden Olive. I'm dragging my brush on the biceps straight into the crease of the shoulder muscles. It's very important to go all the way up into that crease for it to look natural. It's tempting to stop before, because other things, when we highlight, we make the area smaller and smaller, but we do the same here, but it's just very important that the area gets smaller up into that crease for it to look natural. I'm building the highlights slowly and constantly checking how big I want the area and how it looks with the other areas. That's why I'm pausing a bit, then looking, then mixing a bit again. I'm not washing my brush off between taking new colors from my wet palette. I'm only rinsing it when it gets too dry. Otherwise, I just put it into the next color I want to grab, and just swirling it around a tiny bit with the tip to kind of mix what I already have in the bristles with the color I'm grabbing. That way it won't make any difference at all, because that color will be extremely close to the mixed bottle I have. When I'm satisfied with the general look of the light, I start to expand it a bit, and I put even brighter colors on top of it. I'm using the very tip of the brush, and I don't have very much paint on the brush. It's a very small brush, so it doesn't hold much paint to begin with, but most of the paint is actually also wiped away. Before I put it on the model, I always wipe it on my hand, my thumb, to take excess paint off. It is extremely important because you will make a big mark if you forget to do it, and then you have to clean that up afterwards. The layers are quite thin. It's around about probably 50-50 paint to water, and later on, when I'm kind of blending things in a bit more, I'm adding a tiny bit more water. I'm not as much adding it as I'm actually dipping the brush right in the edge of the wet palette just to moisten it, and then I take that moistened brush or wet brush and swirling that in the puddle of paint, so I get maybe a consistency more like 30-70 paint to water. But that's only for like blending the layers together. It's a very small area, but there will be like a layer edge between the colors I'm grabbing. I'm reducing the amount of blending I have to do quite a lot by only dragging the brush in the direction of the lightest part, because I'm building from dark to light. It means I want the most pigment to be deposited up towards the light. The volumes are built kind of slowly, and I'm picking out an area that I wanna bring up in brightness. I start out with the shoulder and like the front side of the arm, the bicep. He has a vein going down, so I'll be doing the other side on the other, like the tricep area later on, and the middle area between the bicep and the tricep I'm putting on a bit more light as I feel the bicep is getting lighter and lighter and lighter. Because I'm exaggerating the muscles a bit, I end up with like some darker creases in between, and I'll check to see if they're too bright or too dark. In this case, they were actually a bit too dark, so I take a bit of the mix of golden olive and dungeon slime and just water it down like to the 30-70 ratio, and then I can kind of take that and lightly brush it in over those areas, not going all the way to the darkest, but in the kind of middle area. It's the same I'm doing here on the other side of the vein on the bicep. I'm just taking the bit more water down mix and dragging it up into that crease. That leaves me with a pretty smooth transition. When I'm painting this model, I'm painting under a bright light, and I'm painting with my magnification. I'm using a 1.5 magnification for this at the moment, for me to be able to see the blends a bit clearer. I'll be going to a 2.5 magnification after recording, just to clean up a bit, because this piece is potentially for a unit entry for Golden Demon, so it has to be very clean. If it wasn't for that, it could easily be painted with light or no magnification at all. But at the moment I'm on 1.5. It's less straining on the eyes, and because of the technique, the blending technique, which is kind of like a layering, but the layers are built with 50-50 water to paint, so the opacity of the paint, it's pretty translucent, not like a glaze, but it is somewhat translucent, which means if I start the brushstroke in a bit darker layer and then just end it in the lighter layer, it will blend itself out, not fully, but almost. And then because of the magnification, I can go back and like kind of dot or scratch until I'm satisfied with the transition. On the model, I've assumed a light source that is coming from the top and slightly from the left side. That means the shoulder and the neck, top of the head and top of the chest will be the brightest areas. It looks a little bit weird right now because I haven't built all the volumes, so some of the areas that would be pretty light are still dark. It will sort itself out when more are filled in. It's just my general style of painting that I pick an area and I almost finish it, maybe to 95% or something like that, but at least very close to a finished result before I begin the next area. That way I can kind of concentrate on it fully without bouncing too much back and forth between areas. It can leave you with a bit of a headache because of you have to have the light match all the areas, so you might have to go back and fix some areas later on. But as I get more experienced, it's not really that much of a problem. On the video, I'm nearing the completion of the area, the bicep and the shoulder, which means I'm all the way up to the brightest few colors, which is the mix of the Dungeon Slime and the Golden Olive, and especially the mix, which is Dungeon Slime and Sunny Skin Tone. I use a tiny bit of pure Sunny Skin Tone right at the end to bring a bit of warmth back, for it to not just be a green transition. It has a bit of a yellow with a bit of pinkish in it. The area I'm covering is very quite small in the end. It does make a noticeable difference, but it's just important to not overdo it. And you can see when I'm kind of putting it on and blending it out, that I'm only touching the model very, very lightly. It's almost kind of like when you would be drawing with a pencil. The less pressure you put on the brush, the less paint it will deposit. And if I want it super, super soft, I'll put the lightest of pressure. Sometimes I can take the brush away from the model, and if it doesn't go back to the wet palette, it's actually because I take it and just gently lick it, because that makes the paint a bit more watery, so it gets even softer. You could just take it and put it on your wet palette and take a drop of water and swirl it a bit around. It's just how I prefer to do it, because it's quicker, I guess. That is the tail end of the video, so I hope you have enjoyed watching it and hearing a bit of commentary on how I approach painting something like this. See ya in the next video.